Hello, everyone. We are a few minutes early. I'm going to give us a few minutes before getting into my whole introduction to just allow everyone to tune in. We got some really good comments already. Best part of your day. Thank you. So let me do my whole spiel, everyone. Good evening. Welcome. If you're tuning in for the first time, this is the La Maison de Rouge Monday night weekly live broadcast. I am your host, Lucy Sweetkill, one half of the duo that is La Maison de Rouge. A little bit about who we are. LMDR is dedicated to expanding the BDSM experience by discussing, educating, and informing our audiences about the intersections of kink, wellness, sexuality, spirituality, and social activism. We aim to create a safe space for discussing these topics, as well as providing an avenue for our guests to share their stories and experiences. So thank you again for joining us. Tonight, our guest is San Francisco-based professional and lifestyle dominatrix. After starting professionally 4 years ago, she has dedicated herself to being a guide and conduit for the S&M arts. She sees her duty and responsibility as a dominatrix as a channel to a higher state of being, one that abates the power of the patriarchy, restores balance within oneself, and ministers the practice of empathy and acceptance through transformative and consciousness expanding experiences. Please welcome, pronoun she, her, Lady Grace. Welcome, Lady Grace. How are you?
Hello, everyone, and hi, Lucy. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm so glad that you could finally get on.
Yay.
Have you on, because I know we've been wanting to have you on our show for a bit. So thank you for making time.
Yeah.
And I know I did a bit of a big introduction, but is there anything you would like to add to that or let our audience know about you before we start getting into our questions?
I think you did a really good job. And I have to say, I feel a little bit voyeuristic right now as I can see you, but no one can see me. So this is kind of fun.
Well, I can see your very seductive photos. So
yeah, thank you.
I think that's always good. Well, so we've got some amazing people on rooting for you. So let's get into our first question. Our first question is always, when we have a new guest on, we always like to know your origin story. How did you get to this point of being a professional dominatrix?
So I guess my first peek into the world of BDSM was actually through fashion. I think starting out, I was always very visually stimulated by the latex clad women and just, all of the fetish imagery that comes with what we do. And so that was really my first peek into it. I think through like fashion magazines and art magazines is where I first saw these images of these strong, beautiful, empowered women, and they were all clad in latex or leather. And that really just piqued my interest from a very young age. And I think it also had to do with the fact that I grew up in a very boring suburban town. And so I didn't have a lot of art around me. I didn't have a lot of interesting things. And so these images of through fashion were really what got me curious as to what the meaning behind the imagery. And so yeah, and then that was a very early age where I was just trying to find fashion magazines and this connection to this exotic outside world because I lived in such a visually bland environment. So I crave that high impact, avant-garde visual stimulation, and it was through fashion that I got that. And so I always found myself drawn to these images and these kinky accessories and clothing, seamed stockings. I mean, that's a visual pathway to the genitals, and stilettos with that ankle strap, a nod to bondage, cuffs, and obviously very sexual images, and just being totally fascinated and aroused. And I think from an early age, I was very, very attracted to the subversive, to things that weren't readily available to me, things that were the taboo, that were unpopular. And I was very rebellious as a teenager. And so I was just seeking out things that were different. And it wasn't until my early to mid 20s where I really started getting into or discovering alternative relationship models. And I met a dominatrix through a mutual friend, and she just really opened up this whole world to me, and things started clicking in my head, like all these ways that I naturally was just seemed in line with being a dominatrix. And so like a lot of Bay Area doms, I started at a house, and didn't really enjoy the house environment like most. But I was there to learn. I just enjoyed the camaraderie, being with other women who were empowered and learning from them. But I, after a while, realized that environment just wasn't a healthy environment, and decided to go independent. But
And how long ago was that, going independent?
So I worked at the house for about 9 months, and it was a great training ground. But like I'm sure you know, it's a very service oriented way of talking, and that can be very draining, extremely draining. And so you're expected it's just a high turnover, and it's all about making money. You're seeing clients that you didn't vet yourself often, and it is just it can be a really draining environment. So after about 9 months, I said, okay, I feel like I have the skills enough to go out on my own. And took that leap of faith and really never went back.
That leap of faith seemed to have paid off.
And yes, definitely.
So I want to kind of rewind to like your younger years of like realizing that, you were attracted to these images, things that were very erotic images. You found them to be very, beautiful as well. But can you think about like maybe something that you did as a kid that you now realize was like, oh, that makes sense why I do this work now, or what I was into? Do you have any memories of younger Grace?
Oh, definitely. I think on one of my earliest memories of playing on the playground and chasing boys, and that there was one boy in particular that I would love to just pinch, that I would like pinch him and to do different things. And I would pinch him in ways where you couldn't really see. So, like, I would pinch him on like the side area. I would just be really mean and and like physically hurt these boys sometimes as a kid. And so,
did you like them?
did I don't know. I don't know why I did that. It was yeah, I just it it was just fun. It was just like, oh, I don't want you to be too close to me, so I'm gonna pinch you, but I'm gonna like keep my hand on you and keep pinching you.
Until obviously a little sadistic streak.
A little sadistic, definitely. And I think from an early age, I was always surrounded by boys. I had all male cousins. My parents had a lot of siblings, so I had lots of cousins, and they were all older male cousins. And so I was always surrounded by boys and wanted to be one of the boys, and like to, be very rough and tumble and physical. So yeah, that was sort of kind of my upbringing, and being around around a lot of male energy.
So what was your first like actual, like in your personal life, or was it just mostly professional, where your kind of first kinky experiences, like sexual experiences? Like, were you exploring in your when you first started becoming sexual, whether that was kinky activities or power dynamics at all?
Yeah, definitely. I think especially when I was exploring more with open relationships and polyamory, one of my first kinky experiences was actually being tied up. So I was the one being tied up, and that was so thrilling to me, and it was so just unlike anything I'd ever experienced. And it was the adrenaline rush from that was so exhilarating that I was just instantly like, what is this? How do I want to do this to other people too? like, I don't know. I enjoyed being tied up, but there were moments where I was like, I'd rather be doing the tying actually. So
your experience and just felt like, you're like, this is cool, but I want to do this to somebody else.
Yeah. I couldn't get out of my head while I was being tied up. Like, I was just like, oh, I don't know about this, but there's something here. There's something here, and that's exciting.
Yeah. There's something here. I'm just on the wrong side of it.
I think
so. So it seems like having kind of exploring alternative forms of relationship is really what kind of led you down this sort of kinky road.
Yeah, I think I went from being like a serial monogamous to when that monogamous relationship imploded, I was left with like, well, that didn't work. So what's the opposite of that? I'm not going to keep trying to be in a monogamous relationship because it's obviously not working. So what's the opposite? And for me, that was, well, let's explore being poly. Let's explore an open relationship instead. And that really opened up the conversation for learning more about consent, about just communicating, because you have to communicate so much if you're going to be in an open relationship with all partners involved. And that the open relationship dynamic really opened me up to other things, other sexualities. And so yeah, that's definitely, I think, the starting point of my kinky exploration, and realizing that, oh, these tendencies that I had always had could really be honed, and that there's a word for it, and there's, I can really be good at it. And yeah.
So how did you, because most people, we don't, those words, right? Poly, open relationship, these are quite uncommon words. And it's something that I know for myself only really came across them when I started doing pro-domination work, because that opens up all these other terminologies that we don't use in our day-to-day world. So how did you even get introduced to like this idea that open relationships existed, right? Like, how did that even come about for you?
I was just looking for something different. I knew, monogamy perhaps wasn't for me, since I went through this terrible breakup in my early 20s where I thought I was going to be with this one person forever. And then I had this idea of what a relationship is supposed to be. But when that all crumbled away, I just was exploring like other avenues. Like, this can't be, why is this the status quo? Like, why? There must be alternatives that are better. I've always been sort of that person who rejected what everyone else was doing. I've always thought like, what I don't want to do what everyone else is doing. And society tells us we're, the nuclear family and being, with one person the rest of your life and soulmates. That's how it's supposed to be, but it just didn't feel right to me. It didn't work for me. And so what were these alternatives? And I think just reading about it, doing my research, and The Ethical Slut and those types of books really opened my eyes and really wanted me to experiment with these new ideas.
Got it. So you did your research. You were like, I'm looking for something else, something different. And you found some resources to like read about it to see if that was something that you wanted to explore.
Right. Exactly. And I just met like amazing people that were also in open relationships, and I saw how well it worked for them. And I, just wanted to try it too.
Awesome. So, you're exploring these. So you're exploring these open relationships. You're, exploring these alternative forms of relationship. And then you kind of stumble across some kinky interactions on top of that. And, it was through meeting a dominatrix that you were like, hey, this is a possibility.
Right. Right.
So what made you make that jump? Because that's still a big jump, right? To be like, oh, here's this option. Do I actually go full force into this option?
Yeah. So that was a little scary. It took me about a year after I met this dominatrix. It was Domina Colette, who I know you know. Yeah, she's amazing. So it was about a year or so after I met her where going back and forth, like, can I do this? I don't know. It doesn't seem realistic. She's so amazing. All these doms that I've met and seen, they seem so otherworldly. It seems so out of my reach. It just, so it took a bit of back and forth, but I'm also a bit of a pleasure seeker. I like to chase new experiences, and we have to push ourselves and find our limits and to grow. That's the only way to grow. And I mean, skirting the edge of chaos a little bit, the rate of evolution is maximized near the edge of chaos. So I wanted to flirt with that, the unknown a little bit. And so it took me about a year going back and forth and thinking about it. And I had talked with some really good friends of mine, some of my best friends. And I remember telling one friend, like, I think I'm going to be a dominatrix. And without a beat, he just said, makes sense. Like, for me, like, he's like, I've known you, like, this, I think would work really well for you. And so once I did make that leap, and then started working at this house, I feel like my life just sort of clicked together finally. It felt like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I feel more in control of my life, how I spend it, my time, and who I spend it with. For me, my biggest goal was always freedom from time and place. And so, I mean, I worked a 9 to 5 for a really long time, and that the stability of that was not worth all of the, the
lack of freedom.
yeah, the lack of freedom, the like working for someone else, and this again, like just not like everyone is doing this 9 to 5 thing. They're working themselves to the bone, but they're really not having time for themselves. And I felt like I didn't have time for myself to really explore who I was and what I was supposed to be doing. And so yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you realized that stability was not necessarily something, you valued as much as freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of reassessed some of the things that you actually value in your life and made some choices around it. But it also sounds like you had a really great support network to be able to bounce those things off of.
Yeah, definitely. I did. I've also just finding other sex workers, other DOMs, and connecting with them. I realized like these are my people. And like these women, these people, they're so in control of their lives and so free, it seemed. And so I wanted to be like that too. And so it was nice to have other people around me as well who were doing the same thing that I could ask questions and learn from.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sounds like a very good journey that worked out.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to ask around, what are some surprising things you've learned about yourself during this journey? If you can think of any.
Yeah, I mean, well, coming from sort of more of like a service top background, that going from that to realizing that I'm not just here to gratify men's desires, men's fantasies. And I much prefer, sorry, give me one second. It's not about them. It should be about me. It should be about us. That it's okay to voice my desires, my preferences, and just being comfortable speaking up and really know the importance of just being who I am, being okay with who I am, and not letting other people's thoughts dictate how I should be.
Yeah.
So, mm-hmm.
Are there things interest-wise that you were surprised you really liked, or things that you thought you would like and now you don't like?
Things that I really
like, activities.
Yeah. I love chastity play, and it was something that initially I didn't really get. Just like, okay, we're taking away the cock, so then what? But now, but it really opens up so many other avenues once you take the cock away. So many more possibilities. They become less focused on this instant gratification and feel good of having their cock be the focal point. And instead, I become the focal point. And I think that's just better. Also, things that I thought I would really like were fetishes. I don't see fetishists anymore, just because I find it to be, well, just purely fetish sessions, just because I find it very boring. It's like, what am I even here for? If
Can you describe that more, or can you expand upon that?
Yeah, so I don't enjoy seeing purely fetishes. Like if someone has a foot fetish, I don't enjoy those types of sessions just because um it just doesn't do anything for me. Like if they want to worship my feet, they have to come in with a submissive mindset. They're not just there to get off on this one thing about me. Yeah.
Got it. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because would you say you have any fetishes yourself?
I can't. No, not. I have a fetish for quality. I have big fetish for quality in everything.
So it sounds like you prefer to see those who really identify as either being submissive or at least can submit for the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Compared to have a specific fetish that you are satisfying.
Mm-hmm. Right. Then I feel like I'm just performing. Then I feel like I'm just here for this thing, and that's not fun for me.
Got it. I always find that, it's so interesting, like this idea of like, there's in this realm that we work in, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are people who are kinky and they can, and there are people who have fetishes, and, some of these obviously overlap.
Mm-hmm.
And there are those who are really like submissive, or at least want to be submissive for the moment and kind of are okay giving up for the moment, even if it's not something that I fully identify with. And like being able to separate like what works for you. Like I don't mind, for me personally, I don't mind seeing fetishes as long as your fetish aligns with my fetish, right? Or else I need you to, or else I do need that power dynamic. So I enjoy foot fetishes, if they also understand that I'm still in control, because I actually kind of have a fetish for my own feet.
Ooh, tell me about it.
So I like, I love my feet worshipped how I want them to be worshipped. So it aligns if someone's like, I'm a foot fetishist, I'd be like, okay, well, this is how it's going to be done though, in my way. But I do get what you mean, because if someone has a fetish that doesn't feel aligned with me, and that's really, there's no power dynamic, it's very, like, I don't necessarily want to see that person. And maybe that person is better going to a house where there's more service topping happening.
Right.
Because, like, for example, at the house, like, and I think you have examples of this, right? Like back at the house days, like because you don't get to choose, right? I remember seeing someone who had a mohair fetish, like mohair sweaters. And and the thing is, mohair sweaters are very itchy.
Yes. They shed a lot.
They're super itchy, right? And I found it fascinating in general that this person had it. Like, I thought it was cool. It was cool to experience. But I don't necessarily feel like now if that person came to me, I would want to see that person, not because I have any judgment, but because I don't really connect with that fetish. Like, I don't want to wear a mohair sweater.
Yes, right.
However, those who have like a balloon fetish, I love those, right? Like, I'll blow up balloons and pop balloons and all kinds of things with balloons, like I just feel like there are certain fetishes where like I just don't feel connected to them.
Right.
Like,
That's kind of
What did you learn? Like, what were some of these fetish things that you had learned that kind of got you to this place of understanding that?
Yeah, so with me, my experience with seeing fetishists is I wouldn't often see the same fetishist over, multiple times. In my experience, they tend to see multiple doms, like they just cycle through them. And I really prioritize developing relationships with very few submissives, and really taking the time to get to know each other and develop this relationship. That's what I prioritize those who are seeking a long-term relationship, because I find, like any relationship, it always gets better over time. And so I would much prefer developing that. And I think because I'm also such a massive introvert, it takes a lot of energy for me. So I want to feel like I'm putting my energy into developing somebody, into developing this relationship for the betterment of both people. So yeah,
Well, that leads to my next question then.
Mm-hmm.
What does that require for you to like want to develop a relationship with someone? Like, what does that entail? What do you expect?
Mm-hmm.
What do you require from those who want to build that? Because obviously not everyone who wants that with you is going to get that, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. So yeah, definitely, just I can sort of tell right away, even just how they introduce themselves and how they reach out to me, whether or not they are respectful of me, my time, if they are just. So the first session really is kind of a get to know each other, and just to see if there is that connection, just that initial chemistry. And so after you get, sorry, one second. And so I really crave and need lots of genuine connection as well. So that first session, I really want to just get to know that person, what makes them tick, how they react to the things that I'm doing, how our energy transfers to each other, and just see, if there is a chemistry there. And it's not always the case, but it can also develop over time as well. And so I really just ask that they come in with an open mind, that they're not there to just list a bunch of things that they want to be done to them. They're there to learn about me as well as I'm learning about them. Just come in with a very, very open mind, and to see where our energy takes us, and and how well we connect. And it doesn't always happen, but I love to use my feminine wiles to get certain things out of them, and see how well, what they can do. And I guess I expect a lot of humility. I expect obedience. I expect an eagerness to please. I expect their attention. I want them to be very present as I bring all of me into session, and I am very present, and try to really embody myself, and be completely aware of the situation and the proper intention. And I love being in that flow and that connection when my submissive and I are on the same energy wavelength, where that moment where kind of time stops and we're just cruising. And I love the kind of high, that top high that gives me, the total sort of mind and body awareness.
Yeah. That's a really good space to be in.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what would you say are some of your favorite kinks and activities? Just to let our audience know if you guys are, a good match too.
Well, I'm a big tease. I love like the slow build up, the long warm ups, just teasing a lot and inseminating with words and ideas instead of just penetrating. Instead of using my phallus, inseminating with what I say and like. So I love that sort of the teasing and the desperation that I see and that kind of energy that I can draw out of people. And then from there, I usually try to get them into chastity and see where that takes us. And I love CBT. I think if we're going to focus on your cock,
it's gonna be pain.
It's gonna be painful. I'm gonna stomp or slap or punch or that's where the attention is.
If you want to focus on it so much, well, here we go.
Exactly.
Well, I think that's a good learning lesson for those. Yeah. So it seems like, for you subbies out there, if you're going to serve Lady Grace, you're going to be in chastity at some point.
Yes, at some point.
Let's go on the other side. What are things beyond what we talked about, like just fetishes, what are other things you don't enjoy from a client or submissive reaching out to you or anything like that?
It doesn't happen as often as it used to, but pegging on the first date, pegging on the like, you cannot be a new client and be like, this is what I want. I need you to peg me. It's like, I don't know who you are. It's a very intimate act. I'm not going to do it on the first date.
I love that, pegging on the first date. I feel like that should be like a Tinder profile right there, right? I'm not the type of gal who pegs on the first date.
Yes. You have to really earn that. That is such a privilege.
Anything else? How they can come proper and things that they should not be doing. Some of your pet peeves.
Some of my pet peeves are, lately it's not addressing COVID. In their message, like, what have you been doing about COVID? I need to know. You can't just we need to talk about that. And also, I don't like when there is a script. I don't enjoy role plays where no. You can have ideas, but you can't say this is exact. Yeah, you can't. I hate that.
Oh my God, me too.
Yeah.
God. Did you ever get one of those at the house where like they would bring a actual script and then you'd be literally reading it off the pages? Yes. And you're just like, how is this fun for anybody?
Yeah, you know exactly what's going to happen here. Like, how is this fun at all?
Yeah, and it's just like turning the pages. Yeah. I'm like, which part is my line again? Jesus. Yeah. I think those are the house days, right? You got the scripts, you got yeah, I think anyone who started at a house feels the same way. They're just like, scripts, no.
Yeah, no scripts. I also had someone come with like 3x5 index cards with different activities.
Oh my God.
I'm like, no, I don't really know.
Like, what did they do with the 3x5 cards? Did they just go, okay, I'm gonna like put one up and this is what we're doing?
Yeah, then this is what we're gonna do. Oh
like, my God. Well, I will top that. Dia and I used to have this one person at the house who would come with a whiteboard and would write each activity and how many minutes should be spent on each one on a whiteboard.
Oh God.
Yeah.
No.
Let's just say no go.
That
No.
didn't go over well. I don't think.
And I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? I feel like we could just have conversations of like what we did at the house. At different houses, right?
That would be fun.
Any other pet peeves?
Let's see. Pet peeves. Not really. Or it's just topping from the bottom, like just breaking the moment, be like, hey, can you do this instead? And I'm like, oh God, like way to kill the mood, way to break the scene. Yeah. So that doesn't happen anymore. I think I have a good vetting process now where I don't have to deal with any of that. But yes, those were the house days.
Yeah. That's awesome, though, getting into that place in your career where, where you don't have to deal with some of those things.
Yeah, I'm just very picky with whom I spend my time with. I have to be. As an introvert, it's the energy that we expend. It's a lot, and so it can be extremely draining.
Totally. What are some of your favorite things that you've learned, through your BDSM experience? What are some of the things that you've enjoyed the most or have been the most like profound things you've learned through these experiences?
Just as a guide, as a BDSM guide that we are, just to see I see my clients as these personal projects, and I want them to do well. I want them to be successful and to see them really succeeding in all areas of their life. And that brings me so much joy, so much happiness that we together can grow better, as a symbiotic relationship. And I want the best out of my submissives, and I expect the best out of them, and to really support them in being more whole with who they are. A lot of some clients that I've seen have, don't tell anyone about these desires that they have, and are very, shameful that they have these desires. And I think just to be there for someone and to see them flourish and be okay and be, more whole with who they are, and is really satisfying for me, is really gratifying, and makes me just love this job, makes me love what I do.
Yeah, that completely resonates. I think with a lot of us, many of us feel that way, right? That this work can be so transformative on both sides, and helping people be more secure in themselves and their sexuality, be more open-minded. I think in general just makes you into a better person in the rest of your life. I've known many folks to be less judgmental because they think about their experiences in BDSM and how they don't want people to judge them. So they kind of come into other instances being less judgmental just because they've experienced different things, and they understand that there are people who are into all kinds of stuff, and why judge, right?
Right.
And being more expressive, being more open, being more compassionate. I think we teach people a lot through these, kinky experiences that they can bring into the rest of their life and be a better human being in the rest of the world, even such as moving away from instant gratification, right? Focusing on that build up, that quality over quantity aspect.
Right, exactly.
Less focused on your own dick sometimes, or having to earn it, right?
Yes.
Which then they can bring in other parts of their life where it's not just about how many things can I do in my life where I just get instantly gratified?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I think that those are all quite powerful. So
Yeah.
I'm going to open it up to questions, Grace. So for
Great.
our audience, if you have any questions, please be very respectful in your questions. But if you have any for Grace, she will be open to answering them. I will be putting it on the screen. If the question is respectful, I will be putting it on the screen. If it is not, I will be ignoring you. You're welcome to ask those questions, but I just will be ignoring you. I'm not a blocker. I don't block people. I believe in freedom of speech in that way. Like, if you want to say the stupid things, go ahead and say the stupid things. I'm just going to ignore you, So, someone asks, how long is reasonable to be in chastity for punishment purposes and for safety? So, well, maybe like, how long do you keep people in chastity?
The longest I've kept someone in chastity was a month and a half.
That they were not released at all.
They were not released at all.
Yeah.
Correct. So no, I think that they can be in there for really long time. It's safe. It's very safe.
I definitely think so. I also think there are other ways, like, if you need to be like technically milked or something so that you're not backed up in your prostate or something. There are many other ways that can happen. I think I think both of us have played with chastity for a long time and people being in it for a really long time. There's no, I don't see any like heavy side effects. It's whether like, it's all mind over matter also. Right.
Yeah. Let's train the other muscles.
Yeah.
Let's train those other muscles.
Any other question, folks? I'm the questions around chastity, because I've done some talks around them. It's always so funny, right? Do you get them too? Like, what questions do you get around chastity?
They're just so worried that they're gonna get backed up, that it's not gonna work anymore when they're out. I'm like,
that one. What do you say to people when they're like, "Well, how about, is it just not gonna work?"
Yeah.
What do you say?
I just like, oh, don't worry about that. It'll work. We won't know unless we try.
Well, you won't know until you're caged up. So let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
But there's so many other things that I think people also have to realize, like your actual, like over time, just through age, your penis, if we're talking about purely people with penises, let's just talk about that. Purely people with penises, like born penises, cis male, like there are so many reasons why your penis is not going to quote unquote work, right? Get erect, age, stress, health, other health conditions. There are so many other reasons why it may not get erect that chastity should be very low on your list.
Right.
Right? It's just like not. And the other thing is, your largest sexual organ is your mind, people, your brain. Exercise your brain. And it won't matter, So I don't know if I'm going to bring up this question. All right, so I'm going to bring this other one. Do you have a favorite certain outfit style for session? Leather, latex, PVC, lingerie, etc. What do you like to wear, basically?
Totally depends on my mood, but I lately in session just want to be comfortable. Lots of one piece bodysuits. I love we spend so much money on like expensive lingerie and beautiful latex, but I don't want them to get fucked up in session. Which happens a lot. Yeah. And so, yes, bodysuits are a way to go. But I love donning my latex. I love donning my leather, my heavy rubber corsets. But yes, it totally depends on my mood.
Yeah, I think it's mood-based. Things have been, I think, since quarantine, like my feet are like, what are these things you're putting on? And they're just like boots, and they're just like, I don't know about this. Where's those fluffy shoes you've been wearing? I'm a little worried that I might be developing a little latex allergy.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I don't know what I've been looking it up, but because I haven't been wearing latex that often recently, I've been doing some latex shoots and I've been having a skin thing. So I'm wondering if it's a latex allergy. So it'll be like, I'm a little worried about that.
Yeah, you haven't worn it in so long when
I know. I don't, this quarantine time is fucking everything up. Someone has a question. This is actually, I'm going to call you out. This is Daddy's girl. This is my daddy's girl here. What tends to be different with cis female chastity versus cis male chastity? That's a very good question. Do you want to take a little stab at this?
Different in terms of like the device used or like, oh, I know what he kind of means. Yeah.
Do you play with women often?
Not often. I have played with couples, but not single women very, very often. It's only been like a couple times, and none that I've done through chastity, actually. I don't think I would put a female in chastity. I actually want females to have lots and lots of orgasms.
Thank you.
I don't think I would, I wouldn't put a female in chastity.
I actually, funny enough, and this is a conversation I've had with a lot of my female subs is, I think it's the focus, right? Men tend to focus so much on their orgasm and their own penis and stuff that they have to learn to like do without.
Exactly.
Yeah. And women have already spent so much time in that area where, like not being satisfied or feeling weird about feeling good in her own satisfaction, that I want a lot of women to really, really embrace their sexuality, embrace their kinks, embrace their orgasms and figure it out. But I also want them to have quality orgasms, because I do know some female subs who it's just all about trying to rub one out, right? Mm-hmm. And that I'm like, it's about quality over quantity. And that I think some women can learn too. Mm-hmm. Like how to really not just to get off for the sake of getting off, but really to like connect with their body, which I think every human can do better in right now. Yeah. No matter what gender, no matter what identity, I think as humans in the culture, in this American culture we live in, we're so disconnected from like deep pleasure and connectivity between our mind and body sexually.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
But there are devices. So there are female chastity devices. Mm-hmm. But the problem with female chastity devices is a lot of them have been developed by men, which has to do with penetration. While there is a good majority of women who do not orgasm through penetrative sex. Mm-hmm. They orgasm through clit stimulation, which can be done by rubbing. And so even if you have a female chastity device on, unless there's like pain points, you could just rub.
Right. Or high vibration.
Yeah, and high vibrations or high vibrations, right? You could just vibrate the thing and then be able to get Like,
Yeah, they
oh
wouldn't be very effective.
yeah. So I don't
Yeah.
know who develops cis female chastity devices that feel really like that work. Please let me know, because I'm not really, I don't know of any, just because I just thinking about my own body, because I don't enjoy penetrative sex. That if I just like wore something and vibrated it, I'd be like, I don't need anything in me. This
Yeah,
works.
exactly.
I'm good. Right. So
Yeah,
it's
I can't
interesting.
get orgasms through penetrative sex. It's
Yeah.
all about clit
Yeah.
stimulation and
So that's why we're better than men.
yes.
All right. Someone asked, any rituals you do to get ready for session? Anything you enjoy for yourself for cool down afterwards or
Yeah,
self-care afterwards?
I have I love the ritual of getting ready for a session. I take my time to get ready, pick out my outfit, the implements that I'm going to use. I really like to be in the space, in the dungeon, and claim the space, spend a lot of time and energy before, and just to walk around and just be in the space physically and slowly prepare. And I love to just listen to music while I'm doing that, and just to get myself in the mindset. And another thing that I used to do in the beginning while I was learning was do stretches where I am spread out, like physically making myself larger to get in the right mindset, I think. Yeah, to get my body and my mind will fall, ready, so that to embody this more dominant headspace and take it up more room. And and so I
That's
love it.
cool.
So I do like lots of big stretches and man spread to get myself into the right mindset and to cool down.
What's your kind of cool down, and what is your self-care?
Cool down. I love to just drink tea. I like to do that with my submissives afterwards as well, as a way to just kind of reconnect. Stay hydrated after a long session, and I love the process of also like cleaning up together as a way to kind of come down. I think that's a good thing to share with, that process of just, like getting the space ready again, or just cleaning up. It's nice time to take that time to do that together. Yeah.
What do you do for self-care?
Self-care, I love going, well, now I guess not so much, but going to the spa, reading a good book in a bubble bath. It's usually something, like a nice long shower after session is a nice way for self-care as well afterwards. So, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds nice. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the spa.
Remember those days.
Yeah. Those days. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Well, I'm going to take that as our last question, but I want to let Grace, is there any announcement or anything you want to let our audience know in regards to, anything you'll be up to, any travels, anything like that?
Yeah, well, I made another Instagram recently after failed attempts in the past where they got taken down. So I have a new Instagram. So if you'd like to follow me there, that'd be great. I would hope to travel again. We'll see, probably likely next year sometime, but I would love to be back in New York That would be nice.
We would love to have you here.
Yes, I miss New York so much. Oh.
Well, this time it's starting to get cold. This is not the good time.
Yeah. After April.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, everyone, if you want to look down, I always have to like figure out where the like thing. If you want to look down, I have all of Grace's website, Twitter, Instagram, for you all to follow. And, I'm just going to put this little self-promoting banner here for La Maison de Rouge. We have a Patreon. So if you want to support our weekly broadcasts, please follow or join our Patreon. I want to say thank you to Grace for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
It's always good to speak to you, and finally having you on, which has been, we've been trying to work on this. So, so I'm glad we can make it happen. And, I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight and those who have supported us during this whole time. And again, for those of you who are new to our broadcasts, we do our weekly show every Monday at 7 p.m. New York time. So please join us every Monday. And we're always interviewing awesome, amazing people in this industry like Lady Grace. So thank you again for joining us, Grace.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for joining, and we will see you all next week. Have a good night.